In today's video, we're diving into a true crime story that left Sydney reeling. What seemed like an ordinary night quickly unraveled into a horrifying mystery. A tale of two young women, two different disasters, and a spooky thread that connects them all in the busy center of Sydney, where skyscrapers shine and nightlife beats. Two lives were cut short in shocking ways that shocked the whole country. Before we jump into the full story, don't forget to like the video, subscribe for more true crime content, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a new case. Also, drop a comment below and tell me which country you're watching from. It's always incredible to see how far these stories travel. Now, let's get into it. Michaela Dunn was only 24 years old when she was brutally killed in August 2019. Across town, Dasha Vulnukin, who was only 22, went through a terrible experience in 2016 that left her with scars that can't be seen. Investigators were shocked to find eerie similarities between the two events. Both took place in the city, where people felt safe and where the rhythm of city life seemed to promise safety. But something evil was waiting below the surface. To set the scene, on August 13, 2019, police received a call in a high-rise apartment building on Sydney's Clarence Street that would lead to a tragedy. When they arrived, they found a chaotic scene in a modern building where professionals and students lived. On May 27, 2016, Dasha Vulnukin, a young woman with hopes and dreams, had a terrible dream in the Fiore Apartments, a modern complex very similar to the one in Michaela's story. She had an encounter that turned terrifying, and CCTV footage caught two figures in the lobby, a lift ride, and then silence. The question remained, what was the link between these two cases? Both women were young, in their early 20s, and lived in Sydney's urban sprawl. Both incidents happened in apartments. The police started putting together timelines and talking to family, friends, and anyone else who might know something. To understand how serious these events were, we need to know who they were as people, not just as names and headlines. Let's start with Michaela and then move on to Dasha. Find out how their lives led them to that terrible crossroads. Michaela Dunn was born and raised in the inner west of Sydney. She went to Rosebank College in Five Dock and grew up in a close-knit community. Her principal, Tom Galea, remembers her as a well-respected, responsible, and highly motivated student who was one of 4 social justice captains in her graduating year. Michaela wasn't just a leader, she was also a role model. She won awards for academic excellence and made a mark on her teachers and peers that will last. Michaela had a sister named Emily and a mother named Joanne, who described her as a beautiful, caring woman who had gone to college and traveled a lot after high school. Michaela went to the University of Notre Dame Broadway campus in Sydney and got a business degree by 2016. Her social media accounts showed a young woman enjoying life with trips to the USA, Europe, Fiji, and Sri Lanka, including a trip to Coachella in California with lots of famous people just a few months before she died in 2019. She posted pictures at Park Güell in Barcelona, laughed with friends on nights out, and shared moments with her beloved cat. But Michaela had a secret side to her life that she didn't share with anyone. By July 2016, she had become a sole trader and was working as an elite escort. This job paid for her adventurous lifestyle, with high-end escorts earning $500 an hour to over $5,000 for an overnight stay. It's not clear if her family knew about this part of her life, but friends like Joan, who were sad about her death, talked about how warm and friendly she was, suggesting that Michaela kept her professional choices a secret, maybe to protect her loved ones or to protect her privacy in a world that is quick to judge. Let us now talk about Dasha Vulnukin, a 22-year-old whose trip to Australia began a long way from Sydney. She was born in 1997. Dasha was born in Canada and studied business and corporate communications at the University of Calgary. Her LinkedIn profile showed that she was an ambitious young woman who had worked as a hostess and server in the hospitality industry before leaving for adventure abroad in September 2015. Dasha came to Australia because it had a lot to offer and settled on the Gold Coast at first, then moving to Sydney, where she did a variety of jobs, including topless waitress for pinup promotions, occasional lingerie model, and MC for Wicked Club Crawl. Dasha's modeling agency called her a unique girl with a bright future ahead of her, and her friends agreed. They admired her drive and kindness, and she loved animals so much that she once said she'd find homes for all the stray and shelter puppies if she could. In Sydney, Michaela Dasha signed a one-month contract with Platinum Escorts, which used to be called Elite Escorts. She kept this decision a secret from everyone, even close friends. Catherine Dudley, a former housemate who was shocked to learn of Dasha's work after her death, said, "I don't think you can ever really know what else people have going on when they haven't told you everything." Dasha just started working as an escort, and her tragic accident happened on her second night with the agency in May 2016. There's no proof that her family in Canada knew about this job. Both Michaela and Dasha were young women making their own way in the world. Michaela, who lived in Sydney and was good at school and loved to travel, and Dasha, who was from Canada and was following her dreams in a new country. Their decisions to work as escorts weren't the only things that made them who they were. They were also part of their stories and came with risks they couldn't have fully predicted. Why did they choose this path? There were times when their decisions would change everything. It could have been the money, the freedom, the flexibility, or the chance to live life on their own terms. Next, we'll look at the days before these events to try to figure out what went wrong. Let's start with Michaela's story, and then move on to Dasha's to find out what happened. It was a warm Tuesday afternoon, August 13th, 2019, in Sydney's central business district. People were rushing around during their lunch breaks, and tourists were taking pictures of the city's famous skyline. At 33 Clarence Street, a sleek, high-rise apartment block was a hub for young professionals and students. Jennifer Dunn, 24, was in her flat, which she used for her job as an escort. She had set up a meeting with a client who had agreed to pay $250 for a service that was promoted as a girlfriend experience and promised companionship and intimacy. The client got there around noon and entered the building through a secure lobby. The meeting started out like any other booking inside the apartment, but within minutes, things went horribly wrong. A young man who was a client got angry in the front room of Michaela's apartment. There was a fight, and Michaela fought back. Her wrists and hands later showed defensive wounds, showing how hard she tried to protect herself. The attack happened quickly and badly, and she died from a deep wound to the neck. The attacker, who was badly hurt and disorganized, didn't stay for long. He put one of the weapons, a knife, on the kitchen bench, which was a chilling sign of how detached he was. Then he ran away, dropping another bloody knife as he went down the building's fire steps. Michaela was dead in her own home, which was supposed to be her safe place. Such a sad scene he left behind. After the fact, people in the building said they heard loud noises or raised voices, but no one could really explain what had happened. Let's go back to May 27th, 2016, and the Fiore Apartments in Parramatta, a busy neighborhood west of Sydney's main post office. The modern front of the complex and secure entry made it a home for young workers and newcomers like Dasha Vulnukin, a 22-year-old Canadian who had only been in Australia for a year. For extra money, Dasha had signed a one-month deal to work as an escort for Platinum Escorts, which is also known as Elite Escorts. It was her second night on the job. At that time, she had planned to meet a client at her Fiore flat that night. CCTV caught the client and Dasha going into the building together. They went through the lobby and into an elevator. It looked like a normal conversation for a Friday night in a busy city center to anyone who was watching, But when they got inside the room, things got really scary. As soon as Dasha let the client in, he went to the kitchen and took out a big butcher-style knife. Dasha, who was wearing shorts and a tank top, stopped moving when he pulled out the gun. He yelled, "Don't scream!" in a scary voice, and then told her to take off her clothes. Dasha later told the cops that she gave in because she was afraid that refusing could kill her. "I was thinking that if I don't, I will probably die," she said in her statement. The client attacked her in a short but terrifying 3 to 4 minute span because he was angry and dominating. He had a cell phone with him during the attack and demanded that Dasha say insulting things, mocking her with questions like, "Do you like this?" and "Say you're a..." After the fight, he stole her day's pay and ran away, leaving Dasha scared but still living. Not like Michaela's story, Dasha's didn't end in tragedy right away, but it left deep scars. She told the police about what happened and gave them a full account of what the client did, his big tattoo on his neck, and how he seemed to enjoy making her scared. Like Michaela's building, the Fiore Apartments became a hub for detectives. The building's modern exterior hid the horror that had happened inside. Dasha's life went on, but the weight of that night stayed with her. It was like a cloud that would come back to haunt her in the months and years that followed. For Michaela, it was August 13th, 2019, and for Dasha, it was May 27th, 2016. But there was something eerie about the similarities between the two dates. Both events happened in flats, which are supposed to be safe places in the middle of Sydney's cityscape. In both, young women worked as escorts and met customers who turned their private encounters into horrible nightmares. These specifics show that Michaela and Dasha were weak, not because of who they were, but because of the dangerous tasks they had to do. No one should have to go through these risks. The cops were now in a race against time to catch the bad guys. What made these men do what they did? Who were they? We'll start our search for answers with Michaela's case and then move on to Dasha's. When police got to Michaela Dunn's Clarence Street apartment on August 13th, 2019, they started their investigation right away. This helped them narrow down the list of people who could have killed her. The scene was a mess, and her body was found with a fatal wound to the neck. Police sealed off the apartment while they looked for proof. That's when they found CCTV footage of a young guy coming into the building around 1:30 p.m. and leaving 20 minutes later at 1:50 p.m. with blood on his clothes. This man didn't stay hidden for long. He was later found to be Mert, 20 years old, and from Maroubra in the western suburbs of Sydney. He ran down the fire stairs and jumped onto Clarence Street, waving a 20-centimeter kitchen knife and yelling words that scared people away. A lot of people, including office workers, shoppers, and people just passing by, saw the chaos between Clarence and Wired Streets. One bystander, lawyer John Bamford, was on his way to lunch when he saw Nay in bloody clothes. "I set off after him with the chair because it was the only thing I could get hold of to sort him out with," Bamford told 7 News, explaining how he grabbed a cafe chair to confront Nay. Other people, including business people with milk crates and firefighters brandishing axes from their trucks, joined in and pinned Nay to the ground near Wynyard Lane, holding him there until police arrived around 2 p.m. Police found a USB drive on Nay that had videos of violent acts in both New Zealand and the US. This made them wonder about his mental health. Even though there were no proven terrorist ties, Nay's family gave important background information. "I just want to say sorry to the victims," his sister told the Daily Mail as she spoke near their home in Morong. She was horrified and ashamed. She said Nay was troubled and had a past of mental health problems. She also said he had gotten away from an ambulance after overdosing on drugs a few days before. Police searched the Blacktown home where Nay had been living and couldn't find a clear reason for his actions. They did find out that he didn't have enough money to pay Michaela for her services, which suggests that he may have brought the knife on purpose. He was quickly arrested, but the investigation went on. and agents looked into his mental state and whether he had planned the crime. The investigation into the attack on Dasha Vulnukin on May 27, 2016, went in a different direction, but it was still very important. Dasha's bravery in telling cops about what happened gave them a head start right away. She gave a detailed statement about a guy with a big tattoo on his neck who took a butcher knife out of her kitchen drawer, threatened her, and recorded the attack. Her description of how the attacker looked and behaved aggressive, controlling, and chillingly deliberate was a key clue. CCTV footage from the Fiore apartments showed the man walking in with Dasha and then quickly leaving. He was cool, but focused. The police checked out the Parramatta neighborhood, but not many people saw anything strange. Like Michaela's building, the Fiore apartments were safe, and people who lived there often didn't know what other people were doing. No one saw the suspect hanging out before the crime, but cops used Dasha's description to look up other recent crimes. The big break came the next day, on May 28, 2016, when Mustafa Kaichi, 28, was caught after a car chase in Bondi. He had a unique neck tattoo that matched Dasha's story, and police tied him to a string of similar attacks across Sydney after a fight with armed police. Investigators found out that Kaichi had been killing people, including prostitutes, for 6 weeks. He attacked another woman with a knife in Sydney's Central Business District, CBD, on May 7, 2016, and then attacked another woman with a knife in Parramatta later that same day. Witnesses to those crimes said the same thing. A man would pretend to be a client but would become violent once he got inside. The police talked to victims and co-workers at Platinum Escorts, where Dasha worked on her second night. The agency stated that her time there was short, but they had no complaints about Kaichi before. After trying to get away from the police, he was caught in Bondi. This caught an attacker who had been terrorizing several women. The investigations into Michaela and Dasha's cases showed harsh truths. Michaela thought Nay's arrest was an act of public bravery that left her wondering about his intentions. For Dasha, her detailed story led police to Kaichi, a repeat criminal whose pattern became clear only after she was brave. But the question stayed. Who were these men, and why did they do these horrible things? This part will talk about their pasts, what they said after being arrested, the charges they were facing, and the shocking reasons or lack of reasons they committed these horrible crimes. First, let us talk about Mert. Next, let us talk about Mustafa Kaichi. To get to the bottom of these scary people, Mert was 20 years old when he went into Michaela Dunn's flat on Clarence Street on August 13, 2019. Nay was born in 1998 in the area of Morong in the western part of Sydney. She grew up with a Turkish family. Not much is known about his early years, but by the time he was in high school in Blacktown, he was said to be quiet and almost shy. After the fact, a student told police he didn't say much. At the time, no one thought he was dangerous. As a teenager, Nay started to learn about extremist ideas, especially Salafi Islam. He kept information about these ideas on a USB stick that was found during the probe. Even though this raised red flags, the cops were unable to find any direct links to terrorist groups. In the years before 2019, Nay's life fell apart even more. He was unemployed and lived in crisis housing in Blacktown. He also had problems with his mental health and used drugs. He made a 10-second video of himself standing over Michaela's body and sent it to a friend on Facebook with the words, "I'm crazy." It made me laugh, bro. During questioning, Nay didn't give many details about why he did what he did. It was his lawyer, Zurai Katz, who told the Parramatta Bail Court that he was going to fight the charges on mental health grounds, pointing out that he had not been getting treatment for his mental illness and had not been given pain medicine after being arrested. For killing Michaela, Nay was charged with murder. He was also charged with attempted murder for stabbing Linbo, 41, in the shoulder during his CBD rampage, and other linked crimes like wounding with intent. Since his criminal history wasn't made public, it seems likely that Michaela's attack was his first big crime. But his drug use and interest in extremism showed that he was going to have a rough time. But there was no clear ideological drive or personal link to Michaela. This made his motives unclear, as they were a mix of mental instability and personal chaos. Mustafa Kaichi, the person who attacked Dasha Vulnukin, was a different kind of hunter. He was born around 1988 and was 28 years old when he went on a crime run in 2016. He was a heavy methamphetamine, ice user, by 2016, which became clear during his hearing. Not much is known about his early life. Dasha told the cops that the tattoo on his neck became a key way to identify him. Before he did these horrible things, Kaichi didn't have a public image, but his actions showed a planned and cruel pattern. He went after strippers and weak women all over Sydney, and he did it over and over again for 6 weeks, from May to June 2016. The first attack he did was with a butcher knife on May 7th against a guard in Sydney's central business district. That afternoon, he did it again in Parramatta. On May 20th, he stole another escort with a knife. On June 19th, he beat up another one and called her a little dog. One of his victims was a girl under the age of 18. In court, Kaichi said he wasn't guilty and insisted that he had recorded his encounters to show that he gave permission, saying, "The point is, I have it all on video. I'm sure I'm not guilty." Sergeant Bragger said that the video was very incriminating, but it showed no consent, only fear. In his confession, Dasha said some very scary things like, "Do you like being raped while filming?" and that he loved making people scared when they couldn't do anything about it. These words showed that the man liked being in charge and making people scared. Kaichi was charged with 42 counts, and the people he hurt said that he did what he did for cruel pleasure and power. One victim told police that he was mean and controlling, and that he enjoyed making her scared. He was probably more careless because he was addicted to ice, but the way he went about attacking escorts showed that he was planning ahead, not acting on emotion. It was two guys, Mert and Mustafa Kaichi, who chose two ways to end their lives. Even worse, he was a damaged young man whose only goals seemed to be chaos and randomness. He was a serial predator who was motivated by control and cruelty. Their words, after they were arrested, Nay's bragging and Kaichi's denial, show what was going through their thoughts but don't explain why they did what they did. The charges against Michaela, Dasha, and others were just the start of getting justice. Next, we'll go into the courtroom to see what happened. What did the defense and prosecutors say? Who won, and what did that mean for the people who were left behind? We'll also face the sad truth of Dasha's death and look at the latest developments in Mert's story, such as how he is still refusing to follow the rules while he is in jail. Let's begin with Mustafa Kaichi's trial, and then move on to Mert's as we finish this terrible story. Mustafa Kaichi's trial took place at Sydney's Downing Centre District Court. It was a long legal fight that went on for 2 years, covering his 2016 6-week crime spree. For the most part, prosecutors relied on statements from victims, like Dasha Vulnukin's, which described how he made scary demands, filmed attacks, and teased victims with questions like, "Do you like being raped?" The prosecution pointed out how consistent his actions were. He pretended to be a client, pulled out a knife, and recorded it to make it look like he agreed. Kaichi's lawyers claimed on his behalf that his ice addiction made it harder for him to make good decisions, painting him as a man who was losing control rather than a monster who was doing it on purpose. They said the tapes were meant to show that they agreed, not to make them look bad. But this argument was quickly shot down by proof from the prosecution that showed how scared the victims were. The defense also tried to call into question the accuracy of the victims' identifications, especially when it came to the tattoo on the victim's neck. But CCTV video from the Fiore apartments and other places supported Dasha's and other people's stories. Early in 2019, a jury found Kaichi guilty of all 42 charges. This was good news for the families of the victims, but it was too late for Dasha. Died on the Gold Coast, Queensland, on May 13, 2018, just a few months before Kaichi was sentenced. For legal reasons, the cause of her death has not been made public. However, some reports say that she may have been depressed after being attacked in 2016. Our community lost a sister, friend, partner, and amazing young woman. A friend wrote online, describing how deeply those who knew her felt the loss. To avoid bias, the jury wasn't told about her death during the trial. When it was made public after a gag order was lifted in December 2019, it made the tragedy even worse for her family and friends. There were sad words from her modeling agency, Pin-Up Promotions, who said, "Words cannot express the shock and loss felt by all those who knew her well and those who knew her only briefly." Kaichi was given a sentence in 2 parts. In 2019, he got 28 years in prison for assault 5 women, including Dasha. He would serve at least 21 years before he could get released. Judge Michael King gave him an extra 34 years in prison on August 28, 2020, for the 5-hour attack on a 13-year-old girl. The sentences will partly add up, so he will be able to get out of prison in 2066, when he is 76 years old. Unfortunately, Kaichi never got to serve his full sentence. He died in jail on January 25, 2022, at the Prince of Wales Hospital in Sydney, after being diagnosed with brain cancer that would not heal. His death was both sad and happy for Dasha's friends. After being arrested on August 13, 2019, for Michaela Dunn's murder and the subsequent CBD rampage, Mert's trial started at the same court. Crown lawyers with a lot of experience led the prosecution's case that Nay's actions were planned and intentional. They pointed to the knife in his backpack, the fact that he didn't have enough money to pay for Michaela's services, and the scary things he did after the attack, like making a 10-second video and texting a friend. "I'm crazy." It made me laugh, bro. The judge, Justice Peter Johnson, said, "I have reason to think that he traveled to the city with the intention of causing physical damage. He used the knife as proof of intent. Neural health problems and drug use by Nay were a big part of the defense, led by Zurai Katz. They said Nay wasn't fully guilty because of these problems. Nay was calm in court, which was different from how he acted earlier, and his lawyer tried to use mental health as a defense by saying that Nay had lost some of his mental ability. However, the prosecution responded with proof that Nay was alert and aware during the attack, such as his clear messages and escape from the scene of the crime, which weakened the claims of a psychotic break. Nay admitted to killing Michaela and other charges in December 2020. Justice Johnson gave him a 44-year prison term on June 9, 2021, with 33 years of no parole. He won't be able to get out until 2022, when he'll be 53 years old. The judge said the murder was a violent, scary, and chaotic spree, and said it had a huge effect on Michaela's family. Even though the decision brought some peace, Michaela's family and friends still felt the pain of her death. They had to live without her lively spirit. The story of Nay didn't end with her sentence. He kept up his violent behavior while he was in Long Bay Correctional Complex. A jail guard was attacked by Nay in August 2024. The Daily Telegraph wrote about the event. The attack happened during a normal conversation. Nay is said to have yelled and hit the guard, hurting him slightly. There aren't many details because prison incidents aren't usually made public, but the attack led to more charges of assault, causing real bodily harm. In early 2025, Nay pleaded guilty to assault in a short court hearing via video link. Magistrate Susan Hinn was in charge of Downing Center Local Court. He was given an extra 18 months of prison time on March 10, 2025, to be spent along with his current sentence. This did not change his release date from 2022. The prosecution said that Nay's attack showed that he was still in danger, while his defense said that his behavior was caused by the hard conditions of being locked up alone. Even though the court put jail safety first, verdicts were still given, but justice is never easy. Dasha's family and friends were glad that Kaichi died in jail, but they still had questions about her because she was never seen, and her last days were a mystery. Nay's long term was a step toward holding him accountable for what he did, but the fact that he was still violent while he was in jail didn't bring them much peace. People who speak out are brave, and the pain of loss lasts a lifetime. These cases remind us of how fragile safety is. When lives are lost, what does fairness mean? That's the question we're left with. Thank you for watching. If this story impacted you, be sure to like the video, subscribe for more real-life crime stories, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. And don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments. Your voice matters. Until next time, stay aware and stay safe.